Whoa, we just went full screen. The madness. All right, let's get this recording. What's happening, y'all? We are full screen. Let's get this recorded. Get Ryan inside of here. Let's get started. Yo, Ryan, what's going on, bro? Can you hear me? Yo, Ryan, you there?
Yeah, man, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear, man.
What's up, brother? Sorry, so I didn't see the link. I apologize, man. I just saw the text. I thought we were just jumping on a call.
Oh no, it's all good. You're like probably like the third person who said the same thing. Yeah, there's like a Zoom link because I don't have your guys' cell phone number. Like when you signed up on the Calendly link, I don't get like your cell phone number or any of that. That's why I just like shot you a
Heard,
message on Facebook Messenger.
heard. Yeah, no, I couldn't remember because all my Calendlys, I always have people put in their phone number, so I didn't remember what I did for you. But
No doubt, bro. So, yo, what's going on, man? I do this like probably once a year where I open up the calendar. And the whole premise is how can I help? And sometimes people use that to ask questions about real estate. Sometimes it's questions about mindset. I've had a few people that are like, yo, I just want to kick it and talk and just get connected and build another connection. So, I really want this to be about you, Ryan, about how I can help in any way, shape, or form. So, I guess like catch me up, where you at and what can I possibly do, if anything?
here, I'm just gonna turn on my camera. It'll be like it'll be steering wheel vibes.
Hey,
Kind of
let's
see me.
go. Digging it.
Yeah, man, a little bit of all those things that you said. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. So we're working out of here. Got a really solid sub-2 crew out here. I love to talk real estate, mindset, vibes, all that stuff.
Nice. Well, kind of where are you at in business? Like what's going on? So you said you're down in Jacksonville. You're like, are you like squatted up with like other people inside the sub-2 community? Like you guys work together or you guys are just working like side by side independently in your own businesses? What's that look like?
Yeah. So my primary partner on everything is Jamie Marcos. I don't know if you've met him. We have a multifamily team of 6 sub-2 students here in Jacksonville. That's what we've been primarily working on. And then as of recently, myself and Jamie, one of my partners, we've been trying to get into single family a little more and have some really good opportunities. We're actually negotiating today as we speak. Someone is hopefully working on trying to get a seller to agree to an addendum on a contract to close on 4 properties, which would be our first 4 single families. So that would be pretty nerve wracking, which might roll into my mindset stuff a little bit. Because that one's a little stressful, but exciting. So yeah, we definitely haven't pivoted out of the multifamily game, but just starting to do some single family stuff as well, kind of in the meantime.
Got it. So what's with so you're doing the multifamily. The multifamily is a little bit of a longer term. It's a longer turnover, right? Like the deal life cycle is a little bit longer than single family. And so you're incorporating some of the single family. Are you looking to do it as like wholesale or is it like buy and hold single families or flips? Like what's the exit strategies on these?
Yeah, we're trying to buy everything. Honestly, I wasn't a fan of wholesale at all. I'm starting to see why people wholesale, or at least one of the reasons, which is for me, it's like, if we can increase our deal flow, then we should get to a point where we can be a little bit more picky and wholesale the rest,
Yep.
and try and narrow things down a little bit. But yeah, at this point, sticking with our goals for the year, we're trying to buy properties. So we're trying to buy these apartment complexes. We're not trying to wholesale them or anything like that. And then like with this portfolio, we're working on single family, same thing. So we're trying to buy them, and get that ball rolling as well.
Cool. So Ryan, I like it because I like that there's a level of clarity to your goals as far as like, hey, we're looking to buy and hold. You've identified what it is you want to accomplish. Have you also like identified like how detailed has it gotten? Like have you identified the number of doors you want to get to and more importantly, the amount of cash flow that you want to produce?
Yeah. So this year's goal. So I like telling this because it's what I have written down. So at the beginning of the year, I wrote down 1 door. That was my goal, was just to get like one, kind of vague, but it was like just to get one property that was right. And when I moved to Jacksonville, which wasn't that long ago, like 6 months ago, probably 8 months ago now, we converted half of our house into like a separate Airbnb studio. And so we kind of, I don't know if I'd say it was exactly my goal. I was thinking like one separate property, but we got this one property. So like, that's the entrance, which, you know, a lot of people say that first property is like the biggest one, right? So we have that. We have like that up and running really smoothly, that Airbnb. And right after I started doing that, I was like, all right, basically the way that you're taught for the most part, or at least the method I was following, was like buy one property a year type of vibe, you know, or if you want to go like stack method, like Brandon Turner talks about. So like try and multiply your stuff. So my thought was one property this year as the goal. And quickly I was like, all right, we got one property. It's only been 2 months. What am I supposed to do now? So we joined Sub 2, and that was kind of how that started. And super long story short, the goal for this year is 300 units of multifamily and then 10 units of single family.
Bro,
and I have no idea how we're going to do it.
Dude, those are my kind of goals. So I'm a big fan of like set goals that are like outrageous and like set goals that are outside of your realm of capability, because it forces you to have to adapt, and it forces you to have to grow, and it forces you to have to become more than what you were from where you set the goals.
Definitely. So, I mean, they definitely feel outrageous. But like these 4 that we're working on right now, like we don't have them under contract yet, but the seller that's selling these 4 has another 10 that he's trying to sell after. So, you know, I look at something like that and I'm like, I mean, 2 weeks ago, I couldn't have really told you where these 4 or where the 10 units for the year would come from. And now I could tell you potentially exactly where all 10 of them would come from, and potentially more than that. Just because, you know, we knew where we wanted to go. We just weren't really sure how to get there.
Well, right. You're tapping into actually one of the biggest things that like I teach and I talk about when I'm, you know, kind of coaching people with their mindset, is you're doing it right now. You get clear on the target. See, most people try to get really crystal clear on the how, right? Like, all right, this is how I'm going to do it. Like it's going to A to B, B to C, C to D. Every plan you ever make almost never will go according to plan. And that's A-okay. But getting clear on what it is you want to create, those happen. Right, when there's crystal clarity on this is what I want, I'm willing to stake I'm willing to bet on myself, right? I'm putting it all on black. I'm putting it on the fact that I will get to this destination. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I just know I will get there. That's the beginning. That's absolutely the foundation of where things have to start, because it was interesting. I was at a mentorship, a mastermind maybe about a month and a half ago. And one of the guys in the room asked the question. He says, yeah, but should I set realistic goals? And it was so interesting and funny to see the response that he got from the guys who were leading the mastermind, that they looked at him and they said, fuck no. They said, does it look like anything we've ever done has been realistic? Because they had formed a brand new company. They had started a brand new business, and they had hosted their first mastermind, and they were able to bring to the stage Ed Milet. They were able to bring to the stage Pace. They were able to bring to the stage John Snow, John White. They were able to get these massive names out to their very first event, and they did this in about 4 months. Very unrealistic. And if you know Ed Milet, you know that man doesn't just come out for money. Right? It's like that's not his MO. You can't just buy him to get him on your stage. So it's understanding that what you're doing is absolutely correct. Now, with the 300 doors, I love how huge that is. You know, your team, is that just you and Jamie on that team? And then you said like six of you total?
Yeah, 6 of us total on our team in Jacksonville. And then Lord willing, we're working with some guys out in Texas. So I don't know if you know Oscar Jimenez and Joseph Mudd and all those guys. So we have a couple offers out on some properties right now, and we're negotiating on a couple others. So definitely for the first one, we wouldn't be taking it down ourselves, not at those numbers. But we definitely have the pieces in place in Sub 2 to make those things happen on our end is just a matter of having the knowledge and the understanding of not only what would be a good deal, but what would be a good deal for somebody that we would bring a deal to, so that we can, knock down that number and also team up with people that have done it and know how to deal with, due diligence, raising capital, asset management, the whole 9 yards.
So let me ask, where's the current hiccup? Like, what's the current obstacle or the current wall in front of you? Because you have a solid plan, you know where you want to go. So what do you find is, if any, as an obstacle in front of you?
Oh, I definitely find obstacles. I try not to let them slow us down too much, but I think I can give you one for each. So in multifamily, the biggest obstacle I'm feeling right now is the market itself. There's a lot of things, and Pace has been talking about it recently too. Like, there's a lot of things going on with insurance, cap rates, lending rates, all these things that are causing a lot of slowing in the market, a lot of confusion with the numbers. And I think that that's more of a setback for us because we haven't done it before. So seeing these numbers change so much causes a lot of uncertainty. Like, I do the underwriting, and for me, I feel like anxious almost, or uncertain about what I'm doing, because I always say I've never started the process and completed it yet. As in, I've never underwritten a property and then seen those numbers come true on paper. And so when I'm underwriting these things and insurance rates are constantly fluctuating, debt's constantly fluctuating, all of that stuff, cap rates are decompressing, that it makes it difficult not only to trust my underwriting, but to find a deal that passes my underwriting, that a seller's willing to work on. And so that's been a setback, but it's also been, like, for us, I think my team, we're very conscious of, like, the multifamily market as a whole, and that we can't be rushing ourselves and this and that. And I think that opportunities are very likely to be coming around the corner. And so we've kind of just continued to, try and find deals that we can make offers on, but also just continue to learn, continue to connect with people that will provide those opportunities. Single family market is different. Single family market, like I said, we have these properties that we're working on right now. And my biggest barrier, I think, is I get this fear, since I've never closed on one before, that, like, would somebody else do this deal? Like, if I sent this to you, or I sent this to somebody else that had a similar goal to me, would they do this deal? Would this be a good deal to them? And with that is, like, is my exit strategy a good one? Because there's so many options and so much knowledge that we get by the different people in this community, seeing what different people are doing. But we got to pick one, and we got to raise money to do that. So how confident am I? And I'm pretty confident because of our community. I'm pretty confident in what I'm doing, but that's like a back of the mind thing. Like, is this a good idea? This is a lot of money. The people that aren't in my circle that I hear talking, real estate's going to crash, this and that, everything's going to fall apart, right? That's all kind of the outside noise. It's like, I never want to be the person that listens to that and allows it to affect how I act, but I also don't want to be the idiot that doesn't listen to the obvious signs around them,
So, all right, perfect. I love it, actually. So let's talk about the multifamily first, right? Because the multifamily is, you said, like, the market's changing. It's like it's a different marketplace, which I'm going to talk about perspective first, 5 seconds there, right? You have the ability of perspective. Humans are really interesting in this sense, Ryan, that we have perspective, whereas, like, an animal, a dog, they don't have perspective. Like, they only see things through one lens. A dog can only ever see things just in one way. They view the world that same way, no matter what. You can constantly change perspective. So you can view things from the masses, where it's like, oh man, this whole thing's fluctuating, it's getting scary, maybe we pull out. Or you could view things from the standpoint of, like, the wealthiest people in the world, which is when there's more and more uncertainty, they get happier, because what happens is uncertainty pushes out non-performers. Right? Chaos pushes out all the people that were just playing because it was easy. Anybody can win. It's kind of like during the shutdown of the quarantine, there were a lot of people that entered into the stock market because the markets were just flying up. Therefore, anybody could have thrown money at anything and made money, feel like a winner, get other people to feel FOMO, more people jumping in, and like it's just boosting this whole thing up. But then when it starts dipping down, the true performers understand how to play the game no matter what's happening with the cycle, whether it's going up, down, or sideways. The true performers, like, this is where they thrive. In fact, when it's going down, they love that even more because things move down faster. It creates more chaos. If you're underwriting and you trust your underwriting and you're like, these aren't deals, continue to trust that. Continue to have faith in the process that you're learning and what you're learning. And recognize that although it may feel like, man, we're constantly turning deals down, that also means sellers are constantly not selling their deals.
Yep.
So now if I'm a seller, and I've been in, let's call it like a motivated seller before, I can tell you as a motivated seller, the more time goes on, the more you start to internally feel like, oh my gosh, I got to get rid of this thing. Oh my gosh, I'm losing money every day by holding on to this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the big multifamily space. So for you as a buyer, that's amazing. That's phenomenal. That's sensational. So continue to trust your underwriting and continue to look at it from that viewpoint, that vantage point of, great, I actually want there to be more uncertainty. I want the news to start freaking people out because I'm an investor. I don't care what the hell the market's doing. I never buy based off of what the market's doing because what the market is doing is retail. The regular people, they buy they buy at retail. They pay sticker price for everything. I don't care if sticker price is up here or sticker price is down here. I always buy beneath sticker price. I always get wholesale prices or I get wholesale deals because I'm an investor. You are an investor. You always get wholesale prices or you get wholesale terms. One of those two things is always happening for you, regardless of where you are in the cycle. You buy for cash flow. You don't buy for equity. Or less, and again, maybe I'm different, right? Or, so I'm actually projecting a little bit of my own thought process, right? But the thought process is, if we buy for cash flow, and this is important, this is very imperative. If we buy for cash flow, it doesn't matter what the market's doing, up, down, or sideways. If I'm buying for cash flow and I can project out and I understand, hey, I'm going to hold on to this property for the next 10 years, right? And that's going to give me enough time to cash flow this thing. I'm going to be able to build down or build up equity through principal pay down. I'm going to be able to improve the property, and it's in a good place in the market where, we're looking at appreciation of, 2% per year or whatever the case may be. I'm positioning myself to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
Trust that. You're going to say no to more deals than you say yes to. You'll probably say no to 9 deals before you say yes to 1, or in that ratio of a 9 to 1 before you say yes. So if you look at 1,000 deals, you're saying no to 900 of them. Right. And then 100 of them look promising for you to start diving a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to happen too, as you do, and you know this already from doing all that underwriting, here's the cool thing that you may be not seeing, but it's occurring. You're deepening your own level of conviction.
Yep.
So when you start talking to more and more people and you say, hey, we're not a good buyer for this, you're able to explain why. And when you're able to explain why with that confidence and conviction, what happens is you start to sway their thoughts because they aren't necessarily convicted on why they want the price they're wanting. This is so important. Like, there's so much that occurs from just sticking to the process that unfortunately most people don't ever get to that stage because they give up before they get to the result. So they don't realize all these little things that are occurring for them, all these little, I call it like your stabilizer muscles, right? It's like if you're working out, it's not just like when you're working out your chest, it's not just your chest, it's your shoulders, it's a deltoid, like it's all the muscles around that. Those muscles also need to be built up as well for the entire system to perform. So right now you're building up all those other more neglected muscles that don't get seen in a YouTube video, that don't get talked about on Bigger Pockets, that like it's only the things that the people who actually go through it ever learn about, whoever pick it up, whoever master it. So as this market's changing, I would smile and be like, oh, sweet, this is awesome. We're getting less competition. We're getting people out of the marketplace. That's helpful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's really cool. With the single family, housing. This is going to be one of the, I think this is one of the tougher spots for investors when they're starting to build their portfolio, is identifying what type of investor you are, right? Identifying your own personal risk tolerance and your reward, like your bare minimum reward that you want to get for that work. Because every investor is going to be different. I know investors that buy properties that negatively cash flow.
Right.
Like I've seen their portfolio, I've seen negative cash, like they spend money to own these properties. Why would they ever do that? Depreciation.
Yep.
They buy for depreciation because they earn so much money in other areas of their life that they don't have enough expenses in those other businesses that they, as a real estate investor, run the income from here through the loss over here. And they are playing a much longer game, knowing that, hey, eventually this thing's going to be paid off anyway. This is also saving me in taxes from over here. So instead of me giving my money to Uncle Sam and just losing it, I'm able to give my money to the loss of this property and I gain a property in exchange. So it's the same money that was going to go out. If I sent it to the IRS, I get nothing in return. But if I send it over to this property that is negatively cash flowing, at the end of it, I have a property in exchange for it. So I get to continue to build my assets. So their advice that they would give a person would be drastically different than a person who says, well, I don't have another company. I don't have another business. I need to purchase real estate to support my income, to take me out of my W-2. So depending on who you listen to, you're going to want to find an investor who you feel matches your current situation or matches the place where you want to go, and model them for a time being. And once you pick that person, I would say model them until you hit a specific milestone before then looking to let another voice in your head. For example, if you listen to Chris Crone will speak about, hey, go inside and partner with people on these deals, let them bring the capital, you'll find a deal, you marry it together, you split it 50-50 with them, and now you're getting an infinite return. You're maybe only making about $200 to $300 per door on your rental properties, but you can go and do multiple deals like this because you never have to come out of pocket to own any of these properties. You never have to use any of your own money, any of your own credit. And he's happy. He will call it a deal if you can net in your pocket $300 at the end of the month. Right. Other investors might say, I wouldn't call it a deal unless I can net 500. Other investors might say, I won't call it a deal unless I can net 1,000. So it's really going to come back to you as far as what works for you. What would you say yes to, and what would you pass on? Right. And that once you identify that, I would say identify a voice who speaks that and let that be the voice that you listen to for that particular strategy, and run that play, and just run that play and focus solely on that play until you get to the place where, like, if it's 10 doors you want, run that play and shut off all the noise for everything else temporarily. Because the biggest challenge in real estate is you're going to hear so many different ways to do it. And you're going to hear someone talking about, well, you can wrap it. Well, you can lease option it. Well, you can have it as a midterm rental. Well, you can have it as a short-term rental. Well, you can have it as sober living. And all of these ways are awesome and correct. However, if you're trying to run all the different plays, essentially what's happening is every day you're trying to start a brand new business versus just being locked in. So for yourself, have you started to identify for you, like for Ryan, what constitutes a good deal? When you say, like, I'm looking for a deal, have you constituted like, hey, this is the absolute minimum, this is the standard, it needs to check these 4 boxes. If it only checks 3, it's not a good deal, and I'm just sticking to my rules?
Yeah, I have. And I think, like with these ones, for example, one of the things that's fluctuated is like these properties are a little more expensive. So like, I feel like a lot of times I see like $200,000 to $300,000 deals, right? And these ones are more like $400,000 to $500,000. So that, I think that's the thing that trips me up. Like, it's a higher entry fee, but I keep telling myself, like, percentage wise, it's a really good entry fee, but it's just more money because it's more property. As far as what actually makes it a deal, yeah, the hard thing is figuring out the exit strategy, like I said, right? So I think because we haven't bought enough single family properties yet. I'm still figuring that out. And I love what you said. And I'm really trying to do that, which is find somebody that's doing what I want to do and just laser focus, on that thing. So like you said, you could do a million things, STR, MTR, sober living, whatever it may be. And right now I'm in this stage where I'm still like dating all of those things. I'm still talking to people on how they're doing this and that. But I run a short-term rental now. And so I've built those systems and have those systems in place. And so naturally in my head, I think I want to do more of that because I took the months that it took to get all of the kinks out. And now I can go do that somewhere else. But in the back of my mind, I then hear the like STRs are getting oversaturated and are going to make less money and fall out, whatever that may be. And I don't think that necessarily scares me. I just want to be aware of it and allow myself to also learn, for example, MTRs or, the insurance stuff that people do so that I can adjust into those things 6 months, a year from now, if things start to go south for my original plan.
Absolutely. And so I like the way of thinking. And like, if you're like, hey, I built STRs are solid, midterm rentals are solid. And if you're like, hey, because what happens is once you pick something, it's just important to commit to it because the people that are truly committed, you're always going to find opportunities in the marketplace. Right. Like the people that are like the best never have to worry ever, regardless of what they do. I mean, you can literally be like a circus, like a person that works in the circus. If you're the best, doesn't matter if people aren't frequenting the circus as often, you're always going to find work because there's always room for the best. Always. Right. Like every market I go into, even if short-term rentals are on the decline, the top producing, the top performing short-term rental operators are always going to continue to make money.
Right.
It's the nature of it. But those people, if you talk to them, you're going to find out they know their stuff. Like they dove deep, they fully committed on that thing and they've not perfected it, but they've mastered it. And mastery takes a lot of time. So that's going to be something critical to think about. Also, understand with the short-term rentals, in some major markets, absolutely oversaturated. However, in some other markets, it's not, right? It's still, we tend to see like these news clips and we tend to hear people talk about where they're like, we kind of hear one bit of bad news and we spread it across the entire continental US.
Right.
Where you might find like these pockets, these small pockets. Me and Keston talked about this a little while back when, about a year and a half ago, everyone started trying to get deals done in Atlanta. Atlanta was a hot market, or it was like a quiet market. Then it got crazy hot. And so then everyone's like, yeah, Georgia is just blown up. Like, don't do deals in Georgia anymore. There's just too much competition. Georgia's a massive freaking state.
Yep.
That's literally just went just a little down and on the outskirts to this little town that no one ever heard of. And to start doing all his deals there. We forget how large the US is. Right, when we start to get out, and there's still plenty of people that frequent these places. I love hiking, I love camping. I go to like middle of nowhere like places, and I find these little pockets, like these little towns that are just like phenomenal. And it's not mainstream, but still thousands of people come through it. So it's once you commit to something, the creativity follows the commitment. Solution follows commitment. So if the short-term rental, I would say when it comes to like figuring out the exit strategy, identify the exit strategy that it gets you the most excited.
Yep.
Because they all work, they will all make money, but find the one that gets you the most excited. Like when it comes to single family homes, I like lease options. Why do I like lease options on single family homes? Because it gets me excited. I like seeing a person get into a house. I like seeing a person, not be a tenant, but be like a future homeowner. Of them coming in and it's like they're treating the house different than a regular rental because they're thinking, man, I'm renting my house, right? It's kind of like leasing the car that you're going to buy. It's like a 16-year-old, leasing their first car. They're super excited. They're babying it. They're not driving it the same way they were driving their parents' car when they were borrowing it, because now like they've got some skin in the game. So it's right. And then when they finally own it and it's finally theirs and they're holding it, they're like, yo, I did this. So like for me, like I get that I like people. So I like that dopamine hit of like feeling like I helped a person.
Mhm.
What gets me excited. Some people love just setting up like these dope short-term rentals. Like JB Bullock, him and his team, like they're all about like, hey, if we're setting up a short-term rental, we are going to be the best looking short-term rental. We're going to be the best performing short-term rental, no matter what market we're in. And that's what they take pride in. Like, and if you ever seen JB, like that's his style, that's his swagger. He used to be a model, so there's a swagger to him with everything he does. He always performs at a level of excellence. So then he was able to narrow his focus into the short-term rentals and take that same sort of persona and pour it into that. So for you, finding that exit strategy that speaks loudest to your own personal joy and excitement, and like, hey, I can see myself, watching YouTube videos about this and getting lost in this and learning about this and wanting to really be an authority in this space because I just enjoy learning it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
So let me ask with that, like, is there anything that comes to mind as far, is it short-term rentals that come to mind with like single families, or is it another strategy that starts to get you excited, or are you still feeling like you're sampling the flavors in the ice cream shop?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still sampling. Like, I think short-term rentals get me the most excited right now because I'm excited to like continue to build out those systems that I have in place, and also from my experience, being one of the best ways to control my own destiny when it comes to the cash flow of a property. Just because, our goal with these 10 units is to build up the passive income. And that is a great way to do it if it goes according to plan. Something recently that, and I know it's blown up for other people too, just getting talked about more, but the sober living concepts are, I think, what get me the most excited about single family, but I don't know enough about them yet. So I've been taking the time to talk to people that are doing that and people that know more than I do about it. And like these properties, for example, I actually was just working with somebody looking at them, and these properties specifically aren't going to work for sober living. But through going through that, I learned what will work for sober living. And so now one of my things is going to be trying to seek out these properties that could potentially, work for that. And that's something that would also get me really excited.
You remember when we were like in school, we would do those kind of like T charts of like pros and cons of each thing, like when we had to make
Yep.
a decision. What's your decision-making process look like when you're looking to make a decision, like an important decision?
Like in life or in real estate?
Both.
On the big stuff, I think one of the ones I try to use is, it's going to sound kind of weird. I don't really know how to phrase it exactly, but is this normal? Like, would a normal person do this? And it's kind of like the quote from Dwight Schrute. It's like, if a normal person would do this, I do not do that thing. That's like the idea behind it. So for example, like some decisions I've made in the past that were super intentional to that I've tried to follow was, a normal person gets a job after college. And so I didn't. That was one of my intentional, like, all the normal people are getting a job. And the way I see it is, if I do normal things, I get normal results. I see very clearly what normal results are. That's not the results I want. So I'm not going to do the normal thing. That's like a roundabout way of how I think I make the bigger decisions in my life. And then the other driving one that I try to use, and I'm always looking through this lens, but I'm not always doing the best job of it, is how can I benefit other people in these decisions?
So I love it. So here's why I like that. You have a decision-making process, whether it's, at the forefront of your mind or in the back of your mind, you do have a decision-making process. The decisions you make are based on, is this going against the grain and will this help other people? Which,
Yep.
By the way, are like two really good, that's contrarian thinking, which is absolutely critical. And that's a part of the law of compensation of, is there a need for what I do? Right? Like,
Yep.
Do people need this? Like, does this help? Because if people need it, it's bringing value to them. And where value goes, money follows. So from a business standpoint, those are good questions to be asking. So I would say with the decision as far as like figuring out the exit strategies, have you now essentially put those two things like on a board or on a piece of paper and then started to lay out the, hey, this is what we could do as exit strategies, this is what we could do as exit strategies, and start to rate them against these two essentially fundamental decision-making questions that help you come up with a choice?
No.
I would say if you have time, do that, run that, because you're going to start to, you have, like, everyone has their own decision-making matrix. And sometimes when we're not aware of it, we try to make decisions and like, we'll eventually get there, but we just take a lot of time. But then when we understand, oh, you know, at the end of the day, when I finally do make a decision, this is actually what I whether it takes me a day to do this or a week or a month to finally get to that conclusion, this is actually what I ended up doing. I can identify that and now just cycle through that process much faster and then lock into a decision. And it doesn't mean everything will be perfect, because you're only ever going to be able to make the best decision that you possibly can based off of the information that you now currently have. But it's going to be, this is always going to happen. This is why learning is a constant process. There's going to be, okay, I've gathered as much information as I possibly can right now. Now it's time to go and use this information until I get to a certain point, until I hit a certain milestone. And then after that, I'm going to be back in a gather more information phase, right? So it's get a little bit of information, take a little bit of action. Get a little bit of information, take a little bit of action. Unfortunately, what you see is a lot of people try to learn everything before taking the action because they don't want to screw up. Well, that's a recipe to screw up, because no matter what, we're going to screw up, but we learn so much faster through experiential learning.
Yeah.
It's the cheat code to life. Experiential learning is how we grow. There aren't any losses. There are only lessons if we're committed. Losses only exist in a world where we're not committed. But if you're committed, then losing isn't even a real thing. It doesn't actually exist. It's fake. It's made up, right? Because the only way to be a loser and the only way to lose is to just fall down and stay down. And Ryan, you don't strike me as that kind of guy. Like, it just doesn't, like, I don't really see that. Like, I don't get that vibe from you that you're the person that like gets knocked on your ass and then you sit down and you stay there.
Try not to.
Right. Like it might take you some time to get back up sometimes. Like sometimes some beatings are a little bit harder than others. However, the fact that like we're having this conversation right now already shows me that you're someone that you ask questions not for as like a victim of like why you need to stop. You ask questions for how can you keep going.
Yep.
It's important that like people identify that and understand that, like, hey, like sometimes like I'm going to take a break. Sometimes like I might cry. Sometimes I'm going to get upset and I'm going to ask why, but I'm not asking why so I can stop. I'm asking why so I can keep moving, so I can get over this obstacle, so I can get over this hump. So for you, like really going through that decision making matrix of essentially identifying, okay, you know, for you, it's important that it be contrarian thinking because you recognize the best results come when you go against the masses. And then also, is this helping people, right? If you know Ralph Waldo Emerson, he identified the law of compensation, which is essentially if anyone wants to earn money, they need to act in harmony with the law of compensation, which states you have to identify a need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. Right. So the need for what we do, you know, in this case, let's say it was sober living, right? Is there a need for that already in the marketplace? Is there a need for that already in the world? Do people need something like that? The answer is obviously yes. I mean, real estate, the reason we like real estate and why it's made more millionaires than anybody else. Everybody needs a roof over their head, period. So there's a need for what you do. Now your ability to do it, this is where you can focus, because you can't really create the demand always, but your ability to do it, this is when you get focused. This is when you get committed and you get locked in, because that starts to raise your stock. Right, you become more and more valuable, and then the difficulty there is in replacing you becomes so damn valuable, becomes so dang integral to an operation, to a system, to other people's well-being, that they will never get rid of you. They won't ever want you to leave because you provide so much value to their life, and you're such a foundation that if you were to disappear, so much of the things that they hold near and dear also goes with you.
Right.
This essentially starts to bring value or money into your own life. So I like that, man. I like where you kind of have, it sounds like you have a fun kind of like decision to make coming up here, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's a good spot to be in.
It's a great spot to be in. So does that help?
Yeah, dude, 100%.
Awesome.
Yeah, I gotta throw the decision matrix up there and actually look at it a little more objectively.
Yep. And then once you make a decision, Ryan, this is going to be I would say where most people struggle and they hesitate to make the decision. Once you make the decision, cut off all the other decisions temporarily. Right? Give yourself, and it could be you decide. I would say nothing less than 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
But like once you decide this is what I'm gonna do, I mean like kill everything else. Like don't listen to anything about it. Don't listen to podcasts. Don't read books about the other things. Like just totally shut it off temporarily. Because one of the biggest challenges is when we listen to multiple voices, even if those voices are correct, at some point those multiple voices will conflict with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And then you as the person looking to execute, you feel conflicted. And when a person isn't sure which way to go, left or right, this is where they stand still. This is when they stop moving.
Okay.
So we don't want to create, once you're locked in, kill off doubt, get totally locked in, get totally convinced, sell yourself on the idea, and just let it repetition, like listening to the same voice, getting the same message, diving deeper and deeper and deeper into that particular strategy. And start to realize all the reasons why it can work. Because it can. However, it just requires being committed. So how long would you give yourself to get committed? Knowing that time is one of the most valuable resources and your attention is one of the most valuable resources, and that every moment that it spills out is a moment that you never get back. How long would you give yourself before you needed to make a decision on this is going to be what I pursue? When would you like a deadline for yourself?
I mean, I think if we get these properties under contract, then that my decision is going to be really quick. It's going to be like, within the week, deciding what my exit strategy is, and whatever I choose, I'm going to be committed. Because if I'm not only closing on these 4, but potentially another round after that, then I'm going to want to be fully committed to something so that I can start to learn how to build those systems out even more than I already have. So that the short term could be like tomorrow on picking something. But yeah, I mean, I think the 3-month thing, like you talk about. So like I gave our team 3 months solid for multifamily. And although technically we didn't hit our goal, we don't have any properties under contract right now. We did do 90 days where I legitimately did not listen to anything except for multifamily stuff. And now I'm in a situation where after those 90 days, I decided to entertain some other things that were along my goals of the other side of things. And so now I'd like to commit a good chunk of time, if not all of my time, to those so that I can try this next path and see if that's going to get me closer to where I want to be.
Let me ask you a tough question.
Okay.
What happens during the next 90 days while you're pursuing single family? What happens to your multifamily stuff?
In my head, my answer is we maintain what we've already built, but we don't grow outward as much.
So does that mean right now you're at a place where what's been built and what's been beat in for the last 90 days is like other people making calls and things of that nature, and you said you underwrite, like are you just like, how much time do you dedicate daily to underwriting your multifamily opportunities?
So it's not necessarily daily right now because of deal flow. Some days it's more than others, but I try to keep it between like 2 to 3 hours of solid underwriting a day so that I have time to do other things. But yeah, what happens is, so those 3 months, there's 2 main things we were doing. Building up our knowledge base, which I think we did a really good job of, to where we can now hold high-level intelligent conversations with multifamily operators, brokers, owners, whatever it may be, and then building relationships. building relationships, we're never going to be there. We're always going to want to continue to reach out and build these relationships. But in that time, we built relationships with some really solid brokers, some really solid other students. And in this last week to 2 weeks, maybe I'd say, I haven't been doing any broker outreach. I haven't been expanding that out at all. I've been working on these single family houses, and we still get deals sent to us, almost at least a deal a day. Almost we're getting sent to us. Not all good deals, right? But at least a deal a day. We're still in constant communication with the brokers we're working with. We still have offers out that we're negotiating on, things like that. So that's what I mean by like, I'm trying to maintain that level of consistency and like reachability from brokers and all those things, while also looking at this other option now.
Got it. Okay, because that's going to be one of the most challenging and difficult things. And this is where very clear communication with your team would have to be that, guys, I am going to be unplugged from this multifamily business in all capacity, except for underwriting on this day, and this day for these hours. These are my office hours. I'm going to require that y'all continue to call, you continue to grind, you continue to grow, because maintenance isn't a real thing. But like staying one size is not a real thing. Things are growing or they're dying.
Right.
So when we're talking about essentially, and I truly believe that until you get to a size where you can put someone else in place where they're ensuring the growth, you're only able to focus on growing one thing at a time. Like your attention is best when we're talking about like being the best. It's a single-minded focus. It's focusing on one thing at a time. Now that means when you're working on single family, you're working on single family. That means when you switch the lens and you're working on multifamily, you're working on multifamily. Very much like if I'm in the gym, I'm not thinking about work. When I'm at work, I'm not thinking about being in the gym. When I'm on vacation, I'm not thinking about being at work. When I'm at work, I'm not thinking about being on vacation. Right. So having that single-minded focus, being able to put your attention on a single thing is how you're going to see the nuance, how you're going to see the opportunity. So that's why I asked, right? So if you're still actively trying to juggle broker calls for multifamily, and then also still at the same time try to juggle calls for single family, I can just tell you from seeing it over and over and over, it's a bad recipe. And although it may look like other people are doing it, I can guarantee you that one of two things happen. They're either doing both things poorly, or they've already established one thing so well from the repetition of it over and over and over when it was just their single focus, that now it's an unconscious competence that they have at that stage.
Right.
When you're learning something new, when I'm teaching a kid to tie their shoes or to ride a bicycle for the first time, I don't have them, also try and catch a ball while they're riding the bicycle. Although years later, when they get it locked in, you can toss a ball to them. They can take their hands off the handlebars and like do stuff. But it's after they've got it locked in first. It's got to get locked in. Once it's locked in, it no longer takes conscious effort. Then we can add and essentially stack that next thing. So that's why I want to know for you, with that being the case with multifamily, now essentially running on something of an autopilot, are you able to go back to your team and say, hey guys, our 90 days are up, we're reevaluating roles and positions, this is the capacity, this is the bandwidth I have for this, because I need to also do this over here? Are you all still stable in your positions? Are you all still able to stay committed to this? Like, let's make sure everybody still understands their roles and positions and can play that. Because if not, what's going to happen is as you start to pull away, things may begin to crumble. And now you're trying to prop up two things at once.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think I've tried thinking about everything you said, and actually our team is pretty much working this shift together. So like we have shifted into single family together as a team. And I haven't really thought about it the way you said it, but I agree that it's either growing or it's dying, right? The multifamily side of things. And I hope that that our decisions will allow it to die slowly enough that we can revive it. But the reason that we have done what we've done is because we do have certain goals this year for how many units we want to own and cash flow and all of these things. And when we evaluated those after the 3 months, we came and evaluated them together and decided that to get to where we wanted to be, the opportunities that we wanted were not, like I said, with the multifamily, we've had things going on where basically we have told multiple different sellers, multiple different brokers that we're going to hold off for a couple of months. And in that standing pattern, while we're waiting for that market to figure itself out so that they can come down to our levels or that they want to sell to us, we want to spend that 3 months working on this other opportunity that we believe also, hits the other side of our goals. So it definitely feels a little bit sporadic, and I don't like that. And that's why I was so focused on multifamily for a while. But I also want to accelerate what I'm doing in a way where I am continuously learning and not being stagnant.
Got it. Okay. So you committed. So it's cool. You committed your 90 days. You did the multifamily. Y'all are pivoting as a team. Everyone's communicated it to single family. That's where the focus is going to be. Essentially, from my standpoint, like from the way I'm viewing it as an outsider, what I'm hearing is we're going to turn off multifamily, like things, we planted seeds already. Those seeds may come back, because it's already been planted, but we're not going out planting any new multifamily seeds right now while we focus on the single family. We're in the single family garden and we're committed to staying here. And this is where it needs to be the commitment. We're committed to staying here until we hit the first milestone of 10.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, turned it off. There's still opportunities that are coming in, but this is what I was saying earlier, like we're very confident in the position we're in multifamily, to where in the past couple of weeks, as we've had opportunities come to us, it's been really easy to turn them away unless they're like an absolute godsend, and just say, hey, I'm sure this is a good opportunity for somebody. We're not spending our time focusing on this right now. But still having those opportunities kind of trickle in so that we can continue to foster relationships, still continue to learn in that space. And I'm still fully confident that we're going to hit our 300 unit goal this year. It's just a matter of timing.
So I agree with you. And I think, by the way, like you hitting like the 10 door goal can be, because I'm a huge fan of when you focus, when you like it's like trying to chop down a tree, right? Like if you're swinging the axe and you're just hitting several different places, it's going to take much longer to chop the tree down than if you're swinging the axe and you just consistently just keep banging out one spot, banging out one spot, banging out one spot, banging out one spot. That tree comes down. And then if even better, you're hitting it and someone else is hitting the same spot. So you hit, they hit, you hit, they hit, you hit, they hit, you hit, they hit. It's coming down even faster.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And now it's just like, and then you're just clearing through forest. You're clearing through all of it. This is where I see a lot of folks struggle with this. And this was something personal I struggled with as well, where it's like your attention, it's easy to let the attention start to spread out before you know it. It's kind of like when you clean your bedroom and like it's perfect, everything's in order, and then slowly the little things start getting out of place, and before you know it, the room's a mess again. Like if you don't tidy it back up, if you don't constantly just keep tidying it back up, eventually it just becomes a disorganized mess. And instead of it taking 2 minutes to quickly put back together, it becomes like a whole day, a half a day project to put everything back together. So it's just like with that now, with your business being just laser focused. In fact, I'm going to send you a video. It's by Alex Hermosi. It's one of my favorite videos. It's a low key one. It's on his YouTube channel. It's a free video. I think it's one of the best videos he's ever put out, and super low key. But like the advice he gives in it is so phenomenal, super phenomenal. So your ability to just bring I call it your marbles of attention. I picked this up from him, to bring your marbles of attention onto a single focus. That's the horsepower that you need to move this machine.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is literally, it's your time and attention, more so your attention, less about the time, more about the attention. Because when you can concentrate attention on something, and this is the missing superpower. This is why it's so easy to outperform people today, because their attention is everywhere. Very few people concentrate anymore. Very few people focus.
Yep.
So your ability to focus and to narrow it in like a laser, that will set you apart from everybody else. So it will go in alignment with your contrarian thinking, doing what the opposites aren't doing. If the masses aren't focused and you're focused, boom. And then your ability to now provide value because you're just so damn good at what you do. You see what others don't see because you actually have the attention, you have the mental bandwidth to catch things that other people aren't catching because you're only focused on one thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it all makes sense.
Yeah, so I know I threw a lot out there. I know I said a lot, but I hope that helped. I think you're in a really blessed position. You're in a really cool spot to do a lot of good stuff. And it's awesome that you and your team have had this conversation and you already see that you have the ability to commit and put yourself onto a task. So now committing to a result over a time frame, right, is going to be the next level of the puzzle. You committed to a time, now to commit to a result, which is essentially indoors. And some people say, how long should I commit to it? My answer is always until you get it, until it's done. Commit to it until it's done, because you will learn so much more by committing to something until it's finished, because creativity follows commitment. Creativity follows commitment. The commitment comes first, the creativity comes second.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that helps.
It does, dude. It definitely does.
Well, sweet. Well, Ryan, you got any kind of last minute questions or thoughts or ideas or anything you want to say, share, or hit?
Not really, man. I just appreciate the conversation. I love talking with people about anything, but especially stuff like this. I think conversations like this are really beneficial for me to just refocus, constantly talking with amazing people like you, people like my partners, that can make sure that I can, steer in the right direction and keep pushing forward.
Dude, I love it, man. Well, I'm glad that I was able to have this conversation with you. Also, I was on your Facebook page, bro. You snowboard?
I snowboard a lot. Yeah, I used to live in Montana. I actually was just in Montana for 2 weeks. We just got back on like a couple days ago.
Dude, I freaking love it, man. We got to go shred together. I love riding.
Where are you looking?
I'm over in Arizona now. I'm over in like Phoenix, the Phoenix area.
Okay.
I used to go and ride like out in Park City. I grew up on the East Coast of New York, and like our conditions were absolute trash. First time I got out to Park City, I was like, you guys are spoiled. Like the West Coast is
crazy.
Spoiled. I freaking loved it.
So we moved out to Montana when I graduated college. I referenced it earlier, but that's what I did instead of get a job. So we lived out there for a while.
Nice.
Yeah, I love snowboarding.
Dude, so do I, man. Let's make a trip happen one day.
Let's do it. We'd love to meet you.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Well, if you're ever out in Arizona, reach out, hit me up, let me know. And then next winter season, bro, I'm holding you to it. Like, we're gonna go do a snowboard trip.
Let's do it. Next summer I'll have 300 doors and 10 single families, and I'll have the free time to go snowboard.
Let's go. Let's make it out. I'm holding you to that, bro.
Let's do it. Hey, last question. Where'd you get that shirt? Dude,
I got this shirt from Daryl Ellison?
Yep.
He hooked it up to me. This was a Christmas gift. I went over, me, him, and AJ. We hung out at his mom's house over in Maricopa on Christmas, and his mom actually like printed us these shirts. And
I can tell that it's custom.
Yeah, I freaking love this shirt, yo. It's so dope.
I want one. He needs to make more.
Yeah. I told him, I was just like, bro, make some of these, man. Like, we gotta get these, like, other people rocking these. They're so dope.
Dude, big words on my chest, just saying what I'm thinking. That's what I like.
Yeah, I love it, man.
For sure.
Dude.
Cool, brother.
Man. Well, enjoy the rest of the day, bro. Appreciate you, and I'll catch you soon.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate your time. Have a great day.
All right, later.
See you, man.